Truly inspiring story you have. Just fantastic to be able to know you, and thanks for everything you were doing for the campaign, for supporting our president, and of course for the gospel. Just give Mike another round of applause. Truly amazing. And we had a pretty good time at the rally last night in Rochester. The energy there was just phenomenal. Just phenomenal. It was just like in Duluth, maybe even a little bit more, even though I think the arena was a little bit smaller. But just phenomenal. They had overflow rooms, and they were full, and they had to turn people away. It's just amazing to see that the kind of movement that's out there gives me a lot of hope and confidence that we're going to win this race, and we're going to turn Minnesota red in 32 days. So I suppose let's talk a little bit about the Office of the Attorney General, right? So the Attorney General's office, as you all know, is very important. It's a large office, the largest public law firm in the state. There are about 330 or so employees there, about 160 roughly attorneys in the office. And for the last 48 years, nearly half a century, all of those attorneys have been pushing forward a big government DFL agenda. And the reason we have a lot of problems in our government here in Minnesota is because the DFL has turned the Attorney General's office into the heart of its political machine. So some of you, I think, have heard the anecdote about Lori Swanson in 2006 when she was Solicitor General under Mike Hatch. She sued Capital One, alleging consumer fraud. And then in the settlement agreement that Lori Swanson signed, she actually directed $250,000 of settlement funds from Capital One to Acorn. And Acorn was doing some political things back then. That's the kind of stuff that's been going on in the Attorney General's office for the last many, many years. The Democrats use it to hand out goodies to their tri-lawyer buddies. It's terrible. It's just terrible. It doesn't even do what it's supposed to be doing. So they've eviscerated the criminal law division of the office. There isn't much of a criminal law division left. Lori Swanson has been busy basically just suing companies to get headlines in the paper. And because she was trying to run for governor. And Mike Hatch was doing that before her because he was trying to run for governor. Now, fortunately, both of them lost, and neither of them will be governor, and that's a very good thing. But the fact of the matter is, we need an Attorney General in there who's actually going to be the Attorney General and do the things that an Attorney General is supposed to do. Rebuild the criminal law division, back up our county attorneys to make sure that they have everything that they need to prosecute cases, get convictions, and keep Minnesotans safe. And we need to go after welfare fraud. The Attorney General is the only statewide official that actually has the authority to prosecute welfare fraud. You've all heard, I'm sure, over the last many months about the problem we have with welfare in the Somali daycare situation, right? Where we have daycare centers that have been set up, and they're defrauding funds from the government to the tune of tens of millions of dollars a year. So tens of millions of dollars a year. This is going on for years, and there have only been a few prosecutions in Minnesota, and none that I know of by the Attorney General's office. I think a couple by the Hennepin County Attorney. So we need to prosecute welfare fraud, line up cases, bring civil lawsuits to recover funds defrauded from the state. These are just basic things, and it's just about enforcing the law. There's nothing political about it. It's just about enforcing the laws of the state of Minnesota. And that's the message that I've been bringing all over the state. The Attorney General's job is not to be a policymaker, not to be a legislator, not to craft policy or decide things that the legislature should decide, but just stand up for the rule of law, enforce the laws, and stand up for the Constitution. That is the job of the Attorney General. That's what I'm going to do as Attorney General. So it's very simple. It's very simple. Now, one of the most exciting things about this race right now, well, first of all, we're neck and neck in the polls, and we've got to the momentum. So we have the opportunity to take back this office, not for the Republican Party, not for the cause of conservatism, but rather for the cause of the Constitution and the rule of law. And we have the chance to do that. We have the chance to do that for the first time in nearly half a century. And we have an opportunity to retire Keith Ellison from politics in Minnesota. So Keith Ellison, there are a lot of issues with Keith Ellison. Keith Ellison is about as far left as you can get. He's essentially a socialist. Keith Ellison he has in the past supported a maximum wage, essentially a tax rate, 100% tax rate above a certain level of income. So he apparently believes that once you hit a certain level of success, you should go no further and turn over everything you have to the state. It's ridiculous. Keith Ellison stands for open borders. He wore a t-shirt in the May Day parade in Minneapolis that read in Spanish, "I don't believe in borders." And he said in an interview a month or two ago that he thinks that borders in general create an injustice, is how he put it. So how can the person that wants to be the top law enforcement official in the state not believe in the idea of borders? It doesn't make sense. If you don't have borders, you don't have a country. Nothing's defined. Apparently he thinks Canada and Mexico and the United States should all just be one country. And that doesn't make any sense. We need to enforce immigration laws. We need to cooperate with federal authorities. We need to make sure that Minnesota is not a sanctuary state. And I can tell you this, if I'm Attorney General, I'm going to do everything I can to prevent Minnesota from ever being a sanctuary state. Because the sanctuary state, that means that we wouldn't be reporting dangerous, criminal, illegal aliens to the federal government, to federal authorities. And that just makes Minnesota less safe. That doesn't make any sense. So we're going to enforce our immigration laws and help federal authorities enforce immigration laws, and that's very important. Keith Ellison, we could just go down the list. There are so many troubling things. Keith Ellison, the domestic abuse allegations. How can a person that's been credibly accused, and this isn't like Judge Kavanaugh, this isn't a situation where somebody is talking about making an allegation about conduct that occurred 36 years ago, and the allegations are unsubstantiated, and there's no evidence to support them, and the story is full of holes, and the person has actually been caught in a lie or two, making these allegations. No, that's not like that at all. Rather, here we have two accusers, one involving conduct from 2005 and one involving conduct from 2016, so it's a very recent time. We have testamentary evidence, Karen Monahan's son, Austin, who brought the allegations forward in the first instance. We also have documentary evidence in the form of medical records, 2 medical records that Karen Monahan has released, in which there are doctor's notes where Karen told her doctor what was going on about the abuse, and it's recorded right there, and it's close to the time of the alleged abuse. So this is very, very substantial evidence that lends credibility to the allegations, right? And yet, so there's plenty of information, basically, for Minnesota voters to conclude, and this is publicly available information, that Keith Ellison should not be the state's top law enforcement official. And we're going to make sure that I could go on for a long time talking about the different reasons why Keith Ellison shouldn't be our state's top law enforcement official. And I think you all know the various different reasons, but there are just so many. Suffice it to say that Keith Ellison would be dangerous as an Attorney General. We don't want a person like Keith Ellison, a person that is a socialist, a person that has been endorsed by Bernie Sanders, right? A person that believes in open borders, a person that supports cop killers, has a history of supporting cop killers. We don't want him anywhere near the top law enforcement position in this state. Now, I'm proud to have the endorsement of the Minneapolis Police Federation. And that's because law enforcement officials, they understand that I'm going to have their back and I'm going to work with them to keep our communities safe. That's incredibly important. We're going to rebuild that criminal law division, and we're going to tackle a lot of important problems that are plaguing our state. Human trafficking. Every single month, according to a recent survey of human trafficking in Minnesota, every single month, 230 or more, over 230 underage boys and girls are sold in Minnesota on a daily basis for human trafficking purposes, and that has to stop. And I'm Attorney General, we're going to, that's right. We're going to put together a comprehensive plan. We're going to work with our county attorneys, prosecutors, we're going to work with law enforcement, and we're going to put an end to human trafficking in Minnesota. We need to do that. Now, the opioid epidemic. That's another important thing we need to work on. We're losing hundreds of lives every single day across America to opioids. And the Democrats apparently think you can just sue a drug company and call it a day. They think you just sue a drug company and apparently the problem's going to go away. That's absolutely preposterous. There are so many different sides to this problem, and we need to have a comprehensive approach. We're going to be working with law enforcement, with our sheriffs, with police. We're going to be working with county attorneys, and we're going to make sure we're tackling this thing from all sides. So we need to combat opioid pushers within Minnesota. We need to work on stopping opioids from coming across the border from Mexico and coming overseas from China. And there are so many different things we need to work on. But guess what? We can't do these things from the office of the Attorney General because the Attorney General is too busy playing politics. And what Keith Ellison wants to do, and what he has said is this. He wants to be the Attorney General, and he stopped running for Congress. He's not going to run for his seat again. He chose to run for Attorney General precisely because, he wants to use the office of the Attorney General to wage a political war against President Trump. He wants to bring lawsuit after lawsuit against the president. He said he wants to bring lawsuits on immigration and the internet and everything in between to obstruct the president's agenda and to try to push policy through the courts, through the Attorney General's office and then through the courts, bypassing Congress, bypassing the state legislature, taking power away from our elected representatives and putting them instead in the hands of the Attorney General and then the courts. And that would be wrong. So we need to stop him. George Soros, his son, Alexander Soros, I guess, has been supporting Keith Ellison. He donated at least $100,000. Billy Grant, campaign manager, doing a great job, by the way. So yeah, $100,000 to a pro-Ellison PAC. And George Soros and his family, I think they have a vision. What they want to do is they want to have all the different Democrat attorneys general getting together and then bring these lawsuits. And then they pick jurisdictions where they think they can find a favorable judge. A federal judge is going to be favorable to them, and then they bring a case in that jurisdiction. And they only need to find one judge to give them a favorable opinion, and then that'll could put a nationwide injunction stopping a presidential executive order or policy or interfering with the implementation of a law passed by Congress. So that's their plan. They can't get what they want through the legislative branch. They can't get what they want through the executive branch, through the president, because the president is fighting for the people. So they're going to just try to bypass all that and use state attorneys general to go to the courts. So this is very serious. We need to win this race. We don't want Keith Ellison to be the leader of all the Democrat attorneys general in the country fighting this political war. So, are you guys all with me? Are we going to beat Keith Ellison? Well, we're 32 days out, and the polls are looking good, like I said. 41-41 was the most recent KSP poll. And there were 14% undecided in that poll. And the momentum, we have the momentum. We have the momentum, and we are going to win. We just need to keep working hard right through the end. And this is the home stretch. This is the sprint. So tell everyone you know about this race. Make sure every single Republican, every single person that believes in the Constitution and the rule of law gets out to the polls and votes to stop Keith Ellison and to win back the Attorney General's office for the cause of liberty, the cause of the rule of law, and for the Constitution. Thank you so much. God bless.